I'm sure you did massive amounts of inspections, all your due diligence, and everything just went wonderfully from there, right?
Well, on that one, I think Kathleen mentioned earlier that it was basically you and I drove by and took a look at it, and from the outside. So, other than just a glance at the outside of it and the confidence and trust in you and Lila, we went ahead and made the leap and bought and made the down payment and agreed to the purchase of it. So,
Well, and one of the things that helped with that is there was already a tenant in place at the property.
yeah.
So you could see the history of how that tenant had paid, the fact that they were up to date, what work had already been done. So you got the history, even if you didn't get a walkthrough.
And the fact that the management company was willing to continue with it. Anytime a management company is comfortable handling something than they have in the past, that's one less worry that an owner has to have. So,
And that is a really good way to find owner finance deals. Talk to management companies and places you want to own. Buy what they want to manage. Ask them if they have any sellers that are tired and want out of this, and say, of course, if I buy this property, you will continue to manage it, because it is far easier for a manager to keep managing the same property than it is to start over with a new one. Lila, do you have any other suggestions on how they could have made this deal better? Tell them about the tenant. How's that tenant doing? How long have they been there?
That tenant has been there for about 7 years now, I believe. They have paid perfectly the entire time. They take care of the place. This is the kind of tenant that an owner would want in their property. And so that really helps when you take on a property that already has a great tenant in place. It's much less to worry about.
It is very important to look at the property. I do not want anybody to think that I don't. All right, I don't go through properties. I absolutely went through the properties, every one, for the first 100 or so we bought. That being said, we had just rehabbed this. We had some pictures. Mike trusted to the point that I showed him. We drove through the neighborhood. He was happy with that. And if he would have asked, I had all the receipts for all the work that was done. We had redone almost everything over the last year or so. And so it wasn't that big of a leap of faith. What people do is they focus way too much on the building and completely ignore the tenant. We just bought 23 last year from the same guy, and we are still dealing with city code violations because they had not been taken care of for the last 5, 10, as much as 20 years. And now we're trying to fix them all up. And the cities, multiple cities, are coming after us. Some of them for crazy things like trash in the yard, and others because spouting's falling off. And it's just taking a while. Not to mention upgrading all the properties. You have to upgrade the tenants. And some of them were $200 and $300. We're talking they're paying 30 to 40% less than they should be for the properties they're in. And you can't just go in and raise the rents by 40%. So you have to figure out a way to pay for all the repairs and not dramatically jack up the rents so everybody moves out at the same time. And as you're doing that, just for being in there working, it's amazing how many people move out or how many people get afraid. So another reason, don't only look at the property. And yes, you should go through. Mike, you've bought a lot more. Have you went through virtually every other property you've bought?
No. So when the opportunity exists and they are vacant, we have. But otherwise, we've done a walk around the outside or maybe met someone, but not all of them. So
we've been through most of them now.
All right. So you go through a good portion, and whenever I can, I do. But there are sometimes it's just too difficult to get in with the tenants in place. And sometimes I decide, you know what, I've bought enough from this guy. How you take care of one property is probably how you're going to take care of the other 20, if that's how many you own. So I find it a lot more comfortable to buy from the same person over and over and over. I know exactly all of Larry's problems. And he says, Eric, aren't you even going to go through this property? I said, Larry, I know exactly what's going to be wrong. If it hasn't broken in the last 30 years, you didn't fix it. If you fixed it, you fixed it right. I don't have to worry about you hiding anything. And the furnace is probably 40 years old. You're going to tell me to tighten the belt and put a drop of oil on it. And I'm just going to put a brand new furnace in because I don't do that oil thing. So yes, get comfortable with some of these landlords that think they want to retire and sit back and collect and buy everything they're willing to sell you. And when we come back from the next break, we're going to probably hear from Kathleen and Mike a little more about their next few deals.